we need to have people organize and fight for improvement. We need grassroots organizations. It's from this that progress has come in the past. I do think that the media are incredibly important, so I do still put a lot of weight on trying to build up a media system by hook or by crook. I put the internet high on the list of the things that we have to cultivate.
Just before I go to the order, just jot down a question and we'll come to the end.
Okay, there's a couple of points made by the gentleman and by the last question about you said nobody reads the alternative media, and you said it's also fragmented. I wonder if either or both of you have any comments on the possibility that built into these questions are certain assumptions about size and also time scale, which need examining. Briefly, what I mean is that in terms of size, when you talk about alternative media, very often this is desire that they be sort of like punching their way around the boxing ring, the same size, with the same aggressiveness as the mainstream media. And I think if we have that expectation of them, we are bound to end up feeling very fatalistic and depressed, because they're not, right? And therefore, it becomes tempting, more or less, to dismiss it, or you say they're fragmented, they're not unified. I would suggest that if we adjust our sense of size to look at what small-scale things can do, in the era of nanotechnology, it's an important metaphor for beginning to think of the importance of small. But also, if you think in terms of time frame, you look at the development of the women's movement, you look at the development of the anti-slavery movement, all the major movements of modern times have taken a very great deal of time and have used tiny media for decades. Look at some of that in the Soviet Union. That's my view. I don't know what yours is.
Can you hear me if I just talk? Well, in terms of time frame, I don't entirely agree. I think, say, the women's movement. You can find beginnings of it, in the 18th century. And yes, it had victory. The right to vote. But it really took off in the 1970s, not in the 60s. The kind of germs of it were in the 60s. But the big growth was in the 1970s. And it just changed the country, not just Arab countries, but a lot of the world. Radically. That's fast. Like 10 or 20 years. Take, say, the Solidarity movement of the 1980s. Remember what happened? We kind of take for granted what happened because we accept it. It was amazing. You go back hundreds of years in European history. There has never been a time when people in the imperial power went to live with the victims of imperial violence to try to help them and to try to protect them just with a white face. Who went to live in Vietnamese village, or an Algerian village, or anywhere throughout the entire history of Western Europe? It was never occurred to anyone. But in the 1980s, probably tens of thousands of people did. In many of the states, it then brought to Central America, but first turned into an international solidarity movement all over the place. Those are real changes. And in the United States, it came right out of the mainstream. Part of the reason it isn't so well known is it did not come out of elite centers. So it wasn't coming out of the elite universities. It was coming out of churches in rural Kansas and Arizona, places like that. In fact, a lot of it was coming from evangelical churches. Well, okay, those are, extremely important developments. And they can take place quickly. But I agree with you that you can't rush things. They can't take place faster than people are willing to commit themselves to it. So, okay, try to build up the commitment. But there are many opportunities. We just have a plethora of opportunities that were not available in the past. And it's mostly a matter of the kind of lack of will to use them. How fast they'll develop, you can predict. Never take advantage.
Over here, because this one was very
Well, I believe we should have 1,000 flowers bloom. Small media, big media, we should be striving at multiple levels. I have no reason just to stick with small, but if small is something that we can do, so we should build small media. But I think what John says has a certain soundness. Certainly, we don't have to always think that we have to have national media, but nevertheless, this is the United States is a big country, and Canada is a big country, and we have counter organizations that work on a national level. I think it would be highly desirable for us to have national journals, media that reach nationally, organizations that reach nationally. I think we should think broadly. Yes, let's think small, but we'll think big too. But one other thing I would like to say is I don't think we have necessarily 50 years time before we get things together. I think the world is changing fast. The environmental threat is severe. We have gangsters in Washington who are threatening awful things, and as I mentioned, there could be serious feedback from the awful things they're doing that could make things worse. So I think we have to, we can think long, but we have to also think that it would be very good to work on things and get them done fast.
Yeah, my question has to do with has to deal with immigration and activist difference. Kind of taking off from the last two questions. I think a big part of what the propaganda model also stands for is how the media systematically overlooks, ignores, and basically whitewashes activist victories that not only win rights but also stop disasters from happening. There's a lot of examples here. There's Canada, there's the MAI, which, you ask most people on the street, they haven't even heard of it. The major victory of absolutely averted disasters, right? I mean, there's also, there was a huge student strike in Mexico City that basically prevented the World Bank from instituting tuition in a third world country where they can go to university for free. Another huge activist victory. Nobody knows about it, right? I think this is one way the propaganda model works very effectively. But the question is, last year there was a lot of protests and movement on immigration, essentially on immigration in the U.S. Millions of people in the streets, this we all know about. But although it's very, very rarely covered, that essentially the Berlin Wall was kind of built as a result of this. So, given that there's a lot of intricacies and complexities of the issue of immigration, that it's kind of an example where unworthy victims, so to speak, have garnered coverage and actually a lot of attention in all sources across mainstream media. What does the propaganda model, how can it be applied in these cases where unworthy victims manage to get attention on these issues? This is an issue that you FAIR, which is a tremendous organization full of really smart people, that describe as complex. So if FAIR describes it as complex, you really got to respect its complexity. So how does something like the propaganda model explain something that's tough like that?
Can I start by doing something unfair? Recommending a great book by my daughter. My daughter, Avi, who's a Latin American, just came out with a book on your question. It's called they take away our jobs, and 20 other myths about immigration. So I urge you to read it. But as to how the propaganda model applies, I mean, it's kind of almost trivial. We all know how it applies. Not only is the issue downplayed, it's falsified. And the obvious questions about it aren't asked. And the answer to that is to raise the obvious questions and to get people to understand them. And so you mentioned building a wall. Actually, the wall is being expanded, not built. The wall was built in 1994. It was in 1994 that Bill Clinton militarized the border. Okay, it had been an open border, pretty much an open border before that. And like most borders, it was established by conquest. And one of the reasons the United States is a rich country is it conquered